Hey there, fourth grade. This is Mr. Campbell. Today we're going to be starting on page 297. This is going to be lesson 8.2, equivalent fractions using number lines. Now, at the end of today, I want you to be able to say, I can name the same point on a number line using equivalent fractions. Now, there's lots of different reasons why we do this and why this is important. One of the number one reasons is right down here. It shows us a little bit of a ruler right here. All right, and so from 0 to 1, all right, when we look here, they're showing us we've got 2/4 because 1, 2, 3, 4 is how many it'll take to get to our one whole, and we have gone 1, 2, right? So 2 is our numerator, 4 to get to our whole. But we can also write other equivalent fractions. Just like I can see that if I skipped this one, I went just to here. There it goes. All right. If I did that, right, I see it would take me 2 jumps to get to number 1, and I already did 1. So 2/4 and 1/2 are going to be equivalent fractions, and that is what we're going to be taking a look at today as we work on number lines with our equivalent fractions. So let's go ahead and turn to page 298 and look at what this is going to mean for us today. So here we are on page 298, and it says, Sal rode his bike 3/4 of a mile to school. Name 2 fractions that are equivalent to 3/4. All right. A number line is another appropriate tool for finding equivalent fractions. So here we've got our model, right? Here's Sal's home. Here is school. And from the beginning of his home all the way to school is going to be 3/4 of a mile. Well, what else does that mean? Well, that means here's our area model. We've got 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and then there's one more fourth to get to one whole mile. All right. Well, on a number line, that would just look like this. One whole is over here, 0 is here, and each of those is where we go until we get to 3/4. So if we showed 3/4 on our number line here, that's what they already did for us by putting our red dot on the 3/4 spot. All right. Well, let's divide each of our fourths into equal parts. So in between each of these, all they did was put a line in between all of them. Well, how many does it now take to get to one whole? Well, if we did that, there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get all the way there. And so if we put our dot in the same spot, how many is that? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. All right. Now, what if we took, going back to our 1/4, what if we put 2 equal lines in between there so that it took 3 to get there? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now our new denominator is going to be 12ths, right? So we took each of these fourths and all we did was break each of them into 3 equal parts for each of those to get our 12ths. And when we do that, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. These are all equivalent because our 0 stayed the same, our 1 stayed the same, and our number line plot stayed the same on all of these. It's just dependent on the number of jumps or skips to be able to get there. These are all equivalent fractions. And if we look down here, 3/4 is equal to 6/8, which is equal to 9/12. So they all connect and are related to each other. Well, let's take a look at page 299 and see how we're going to work on this in our independent and guided practice. All right, so here we are on page 299. Make sure you've got your pencil with me. We're going to look at another example. And on this one, you might look at this and go, hey, the numbers get kind of weird. They're a little funky here. And that's because our number line doesn't have to just go to 1. All right, and I just want to remind you, we have our number 1 as our whole, right? That is also a fraction. And when we know that, it's because the numerator and denominator are the same. 1/1 is equal to 1. 2/2 is equal to 1/1 is equal to 1. These are all equivalent fractions. Anytime the numerator and denominator are the same, that is equal to 1. I could make it 45/45, and that's still equal to 1 because our denominator tells us how many we need to make the one whole, and our numerator is that number, okay? So when we take a look at this number line over here, I can see that I'm starting with 0/3, 1/3, 2/3. And when I get to 3/3, that is 1 whole. So here's my 1 whole. Well, now look at this. 4/3, 5/3, 6/3. Well, if I had the same number on top and bottom, my top number now is 2 times the bottom. That's because this is 2. All right. Same with down here. 0, 6, 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 6. We can go all the way up to 12 sixths, and those are equivalent fractions. All right. So even if our number gets greater than 1 whole, we can still use these number lines in the exact same way. All that means is that our fraction becomes improper because the top number is bigger than the bottom number. But that's okay when we're figuring out equivalent fractions like we're going to be doing now. All right, let's go ahead and slide down here to number 2. It says, write an equivalent fraction for 1/3. So I'm going to look on here for 1/3 and, oh, hey, there it is. All right. Well, I can see my bottom one is going to be showing me sixths. My top ones, I've got 3 and 2, but let's just focus on this 1/3. So if I want an equivalent fraction, that means that I'm looking for what number would go down here. Well, if I'm doing my 6, I see that these are equal. So my denominator is going to be 6. How many jumps was it? 1, 2. So this is 2, 6. So what's an equivalent fraction for 1/3? It is 2 sixths. Okay. Now, the reason that I used my pencil for this is because I'm going to go back and erase. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do too. I'm going to leave my 2 6 on here just because, hey, why not? But I'm going to erase the rest because I need to use this number line again. Excuse me. All right. Because now for number 3, it says write an equivalent fraction for 1/2. 1/2. Well, I've got my 1/2 here. And just like before, I'm going to circle it because I want to know what's going to go down here. Well, I had 1/6, 2 sixths. This is going to be 3 sixths. I see my pattern here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be 6 out of 6, right? So what's an equivalent fraction for 1/2? Well, 3 over 6, 3 sixths. That number line can be used to help me out in these different ways. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump down here to number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, these are going to be a little bit trickier, all right? And we're going to have to figure out a couple of different things because it says use the number line to find the equivalent fractions and circle the correct answers. Would you underline the word answers for me? Does it say circle the correct answer? No, there's an S at the end, which means there might be more than one correct answer. All right. So when I take a look at my numbers here, so it says which of the following fractions is an equivalent fraction for point A? Well, point A is right here. Point B is all the way over here at 1 whole. So I see I've got to figure out, is this 1/4? Is this 1/3? Is this 2/3? Is this 1/6? Is this 2/6? There's all sorts of different choices here. So what I need to do is I need to be able to carve up this number line, this segment right here, and then figure out what lands there. All right. So let's go ahead and start with our 4th. So let's see. If I were to take in between here, there's half, right? And then I want to cut that into 2 more equal parts. All right. So I've got 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Well, if this is 1/4, is that in the same spot? No, it is not. So I'm going to cross this off. I'm going to come back up here and erase all those lines I just made. All right. All right, let's check our next one. I've got 1/3. So if I've got, this is my 1 whole over here, and this is my 0, I'm going to cut this into 3 equal parts. So here and here, I've got 1 equal part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts. 1/3 would be, boom, right here. Hey, that's the same spot that was on, right? So I'm going to circle 1/3 because it's in the same spot as 4/12. What about 2/3? Excuse me again. What about 2/3? Well, if I go 1/3, 2/3, no, that's not in the same spot, is it? Well, my next one I need to do 6, and hang on a second, because if I were to look at this and go, well, if these are thirds, if I break each of these in half again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, all right. So here's my 6th, which is what my next denominator is. Well, 1/6 would be right here. That's not right. 1/6, 2/6. Hey, that's the letter A that we're looking for. Yes, it is. So I would also circle that one. All right. This is the way. Now that I've done this, I can erase all these parts, because on the next question, I'm probably not going to need those same parts. So I can erase these, which is why I'm never writing too hard on my paper, because now I can, look at that, reuse my number line. Now, if I'm pushing super hard, it's going to be harder to erase. So I want to kind of write lightly as I go. All right. That's how we can find equivalent fractions for these different parts. All right. So make sure as you're looking for equivalent fractions, we're looking at our denominators to help us out as we figure out where those different parts and plots are going to be, so that way we can solve them. All right, 4th grade, thanks so much for working with me today. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time.